It is Thursday. It is the 8th of June, and welcome to this live stream number 14th. All right, if you have joined me before for this live stream, you will see that I'm in a little bit different surroundings than normal. And trust me, you might not believe it, but I actually tried to clean up the shoe rack in the back, and I gave up on it. What is going on is that my mom is in town, what is absolutely awesome, but that meant that my office got turned into a guest room. So here I am kind of like in our kitchen dining room area and doing today's live stream. So let's see what we do tomorrow. Maybe we do it out on the lawn, who knows. But thank you so much for joining. If you're watching the recording, then go down in the description area. You will see my email. And be more than welcome to send me an email if there's anything you would like to see me to cover in these live streams in regards to Fusion 360. If you're joining the chat, and you can see we already got 8 people in here. That was quick in a minute or so. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Really appreciate you taking the time here from my kitchen living room now, where I don't have an office for the next 10 days. That's life, I guess. So today, I'm really going to be specifically talking about CAM. So if you're not into CAM, this live stream today might not really be worth too much for you, unless, of course, you kind of want to get into it. Also, if you are already a seasoned CAM guy, then maybe this is not a great topic for you either. What we're going to cover today is I've gotten a couple of emails over probably the last, I would say, few weeks from people who either are starting out with CAM for the first time or have gotten a new machine and kind of like trying to verify their post processors, trying to assure that they're getting the best result when they are launching a new, either because they got a new machine and they now need to go out and find a new post for it, or this is brand new, you've never done CAM before and you're kind of like trying to figure things out. So I thought that today is all CAM, and I thought I would take you through the process of how I have normally dealt with this in the past. So I got a new machine, and you had to go out and find a new post for it, and I'll show you that. And what should you do with your first part, and what is kind of like the things you should keep an eye out for. So that's what we're going to do today. All you guys who are already inside of the chat, thank you so much for taking the time to join in. I love it. Appreciate it. So grateful that you do that. Don't forget, down in the description area is my email, lars.christensen@autodesk.com. If there's anything you would like to see in a future live stream, send me that idea. If you're watching the recording, what is the great thing about YouTube, of course, that it's getting recorded. Thank you so much for doing that. But like I said, today is all CAM, and it's fairly basic. Really what I want to do is try to show how I normally attack when we got a new machine and we had to figure something out about a post processor. What was kind of like my steps for doing that. So guys, thank you so much. Let me jump into the software, into Fusion 360, and we'll get back to the live stream a little bit later. All right, so we should be inside of Fusion here. I'm kind of like running a little bit on the less monitor. Isn't that amazing that I normally run 3 monitors, now I'm down to 2, and I feel like somebody cut my hand off. You just get used to technology. All right, we're inside of Fusion here, and what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about you are getting a new machine, or you're trying to figure out your first post processor from the beginning. How would you approach that? This is how I did it. I would grab a piece of material, and normally I would grab a piece of 6061, for example, aluminum, some kind of a non-expensive piece. And I'm just going to go in here and create a rectangle, and I'm going to make it 3 inches by 3 inches. And then I'm going to hit Q for press pull, and I'm going to make it 1 inch 250. Now the reason that I'm picking these dimensions, so 3 by 3 by 1 inch 250, is because I used to buy like a long bar of this 6061 aluminum to this price, and it's fairly cheap, so this is not gonna ruin you, price wise. This is kind of like just a test piece, right? What I would do with this piece is that I would create a sketch on top of that, and I would also create a center pocket. okay? So create a center pocket like this, and I'm just gonna make this one 2 by 2, I guess. And I'm gonna extrude that down here. And I'm just gonna extrude this one down like, let's say, 1/2 inch, okay? And I'm just gonna go up here on my screen and just make sure that I'm busy so nobody pings me. All right, so what we got here is that we got a pretty fairly simple shape, right? But this is our test piece for CAM. Now I'm gonna come to the post in just a few seconds. And then we're gonna talk a little bit about post processes. But let's just generate a couple of tool paths on this first. So I'm gonna go into CAM. And the first thing we have to do inside of CAM is we have to create that setup, right? Now this is what I would recommend you're doing. Of course, you can do everything the way you want it, but what I would do is I would create a setup, and we're gonna do milling. And of course, the triad is always showing wrong here. Now, if you are a little bit unsecure about all this, how to set all this, change all this, then definitely watch some of the other videos. But I always use the first one. So like Z plane, and I'm gonna select the top here to flip the Z axis up. I'm doing this as if I was in a vertical machine. So right now the Z axis is up, the Y is pointing towards the back of the machine, and the X is pointing toward my right hand. What means that if I rotate this, you will see this is kind of like if we were standing in front of it and the doors was open or closed. That's how we're kind of like gonna program it. I'm also gonna leave the origin to be sitting at the center of the part. What this means is, sorry, I'm not using all of this. What this means, folks, is that now we put this 3x3, 1.25 inch in a vise, and we have placed it there. When you pick up the part, you can use like an indicator, an edge finder, whatever you have. Pick up the top or the sides and find the center, okay? Find the center of the part, and then when you set your Z, you set that right on top of the stock. So when we go back in here to the setup, we have our triad sitting right in the center of the block, and it's sitting right on top. Now I also want you to go over to the stock over here, and by default it says to relative size stock. I want you to change that to fixed size box because, oh, and I'm in metric over here. That is gonna confuse the heck out of me. I'm gonna change it to inches. Now I get to do it over. You can change your units over here if you want to. I changed that from millimeter to inches. Sorry about that. So now I get to do it again. So here's the triad. Always do it faster the second time, right? So I'm always using the select Z, and I'm gonna select the top face here, and now I have that triad sitting right there, right? Now when we go over to the stock, now stock is really only used for the verification of this part, but I want you to go in and do fixed size box. And the reason I want you to do fixed size box is because, well, we need to measure this block here. So this is like this, I would use an extruded bar. So that means that when I'm measuring it, if it's extruded, it might be 3 inches and 50. You know, put in whatever that bar is measuring in here, and the saw length of this might be, you know, I might saw it an inch, 100,000 over, but do the thickness here to exactly what we're planning on programming, not what you're actually measuring it to, because we're touching off on the top, and you will see why I want to do that in a second. So in the X and the Y, put in what you actually measure, but in the height step, just put in what we kind of like expect we want. Now, when it goes to touch off all your tools, I want you to touch them off on top of the part. And now again, just if you just jumped in on the live chat here, let me just make sure that this live stream today is just pure cam. I'm gonna try that out, see how that goes. And really what I'm working on here is if this is the first time you're testing out a new post for a new machine, or you're kind of like brand new to machining and you're trying to test out your first block. This is how I would do it. So what we've done so far is we have a block that is 3 inches by 3 inches and 1.25 inches thick of 6061 aluminum or something else soft. You could even use wood for that matter. It doesn't matter. Just have to be something that is not, too expensive, right? And when I did my setup, I made sure that I picked up the center of the parts. My G54 is right in the center. That's the work offset we're going to use here. And I have made sure in my stock that I put in the width and the length what I measure, but on the top here I'm making sure that I'm literally just pretending that the stock is what we want it to be nominal right here. All right, because what we're gonna do, the first toolpath we're gonna go in and put in here is gonna be a facing toolpath. So I'm gonna select the facing toolpath. And the first thing over here is always where we're selecting our tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select the tool that I have. And I have a tool for aluminum milling. And I'm just going to select a 1/2 inch end mill right here. I'm going to hit OK to that. So a 1/2 inch end mill that I'm going to use for this whole thing. And I'm only going to use one tool. Now over here in the feeds and speeds, be conservative. Okay, so right now I have like a 4 thou chip load in here, but it's, probably if I was doing day to day, I might be all rough and have all this tested out, but this has nothing to do about being efficient. This is about verifying that post for the first time. So be conservative. So I'm gonna do a thou for my cutting feed rate. So I'm down to 23 inches a minute, but definitely is not gonna make me any money. And my lead in and lead out feed rate, I don't care about speed here. Just make it as conservative as you feel comfortable with. Even like my feed for revolution, for the plunge rate, I mean, you can make this as slow as you want. This has nothing to do with trying to be efficient. That's all I want you to change on the facing operation is the feeds and speeds. Make sure you're conservative. And when I hit OK here, we are getting a facing operation. Now, in theory, if you do this, in theory, what we got right now is a facing operation that is not going to touch anything, right? Because we picked up the X and the Y in the center, and we touched up right on top of our stock, right on top of the stock there, and we touched all our tools up with the stock. This facing operation should just come down to 0 and should just start cutting across without really touching any material or very little material. The reason for that is the first time you're verifying a new post, and especially if it's a new machine, you're always a little bit scared, right? This here will make sure that you don't have to worry about the end mill just suddenly plunging down in the steel and things are just going awry. This is being conservative. So this is the way to make sure that the tool just comes down right to the top, and it should just kind of like skim across, and you can, if you have a feed override, you can go this slow, nothing matters here. It's just like you're feeling good about yourself, right? Peace, right? So this is the first toolpath we will do. After that, I will go ahead and I would do a contour toolpath. Now the 2D contour toolpath here, I'm going to use the same end mill as we used before. So I'm going to select that one. Okay. And now again, I will have to adjust my feeds and speeds. And there's other ways we could do all this. But for right now, don't worry about going through, just do this. We are not trying to be, super efficient. So I'm just going to switch things back to where they were before. Make sure that my feeds and speeds are pretty conservative. Now, when I go to my geometry tab, I am going to select the bottom edge down here, okay? And then I'm going to go over to the heights tab, and I just wanted to take 2 seconds to explain that heights tab because this is kind of like can become a little bit confusing normally. Now, if you have ever done one of these, done any of my tutorials before, I always talk about whenever you're working with a dialog box, start from the top and work your way down. Well, In the heights tab for cam, I actually recommend you're going the opposite way. And the reason for that is if you're starting from the bottom and working your way up, you will see that things starts to kind of makes a little bit more sense. And the bottom depth of our cutter is normally what we're worrying about anyways, right? How deep is the cutter going is normally the biggest fear we have anyways. So right now it is set here to select the contour. What you see, there's different options, but select the contour is the default. What of course is the bottom, that was what I selected. Now we don't want that because you probably have this part sitting in a vise right now, right? Now we had set the extrusion here to be 1.25 inches. So I'm gonna put in here in the offset 1 inch. And now I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. That means that our cutter, and we're using the same tools we did with the facing operation. Now the facing operation just barely touched anything. That means that this cutter here should only be 0.25 deep, okay? That means that when you are verifying this out on your control, you should see that it's only going down to 50. And if I go in here, I can simulate the two operations. Let's turn the stock on here. Like I said, the first facing operation here should not take anything, just barely dusting the top here, right? So that should not be scary. Now, the cutter should only go 250 down and machine all the way around. And when this is done here, take a pair of vernagers and check that it is actually 250. And at this point, since we're using like aluminum or wood or something else soft, you should also be able to check the width here, and you should be able to see that the width and should be 3 by 3 inches. And that should kind of like make you feel comfortable about this. Now I'm going to continue and programming this part. The next one I'm going to use is a 2D adaptive. Now, if you never used this roughing strategy before, this is definitely one of the good ones to test out the first time you're testing out one of these. Now, again, now it remembers the tool, you will see here that we are this conservative, so you should be okay. Now, in this case here, for the selection, I'm going to select the bottom edge of that pocket. Okay. Now, when we go over and click on the heights tab, again, we're going to work from the bottom and work our way up. Again, the depth here is the selected contour. What is down in the pocket? So that's fine. We don't have to do any offset. Now, let's just talk about the other options in here. So the bottom height is how deep the cutter is going to go. That's the first thing we check in the heights tab. And right now, it's select the contour. What was that edge we selected? Perfectly fine. The next thing is the top height. And that's actually the stock top. That was what we made 0. And you can see right here in blue, it shows us the top. And that should be right where our first operation kind of like kissed. The next one is the retract height. So when it's positioning between like pockets or holes, you will see that's the top. That was what we had before, plus 200,000. So this one is kind of like building on top of this. And then the clearance height was kind of like when it's rabbiting around here. That would be the retract height, what was stock top, plus 200, plus an additional 400. Yes, thank goodness, DJ, this is being recorded. And definitely feel free that, to rewatch this if this is a little confusing. What I'm trying to say with the heights tab is it's kind of like building on top of each other. It's almost like Lego blocks. So I hope that is kind of helpful with that. Now also when we go into the passes tab over here, notice that since this is a roughing operation, it's going to leave 20,000s on the sides and on the bottom. What means that if I hit OK right now, this tool path will go in a spiral in here. Now remember, there's going to be full of stock in here. So it's going to kind of like spiral in here, but it should go slow. Make sure that your feeds and speeds are slow. Then it's going to position out and machine out, but it should be leaving 20 thousandths on each side and on the bottom. Now, when this operation had been run through, make sure you check that, right? Just like when the first operation machined around here, make sure you had 3 by 3. You can now, when this operation run, you can check that. Now, to finish all this, we're gonna go in and do a 2D pocket for the finishing operation. So I'm gonna click on that one. And still, we're using the same feet and speeds. Make sure these are super conservative, right? And then go into the selection. We're going to select the same pocket as we did before. I'm going to go to the heights tab again. And again, the depth is going to be that same as we just selected. So that's how deep the cutter should go. It should not go any deeper than that. Top height is still the top of the stock, what the facing operation touched. And these remaining are building upon that like Lego blocks. So this is 200,000 above the stock top. This is another 200,000 above and another 400,000 above. Go into the passes tab, turn off stock to lead, because I'm actually going to use this as a finishing operation. So I want that to actually just take the 20,000 on the bottom and on the wall. And the last tab in here is the linking tab. And I don't need to helix in here because we just removed all the material. I can actually change that to a plunge. For me, it's just going to go straight down. That is all the toolpath that I would create on my first testing block. So there's going to be a facing operation. Let me just go in and we can simulate it. I'll turn this over to tail. And now I heard my refrigerator just kicking in. So the first thing is going to be this facing operation. Like I said, this facing operation here, if you just came into the recording, go to the live stream, go back and watch the whole recording. This one here is just to test your first post. So this one here should just barely touch. Now the next one here should make a 3 by 3, and it should also only measure down 0.25 deep. Now here comes the adaptive clearing. It's going to plunge in here, so make sure that your feeds and speeds are fairly conservative. It should leave 20 thousandths on the bottom and on the wall. Okay, now of course, don't walk away from the machine. Just be nice and slow here. And then the last one should come in and just pocketing out that last 20 thousandths and take care of the wall. When you got to this point, you should be able to take your verniers and you should be able to take this block and you should be able to check. First of all, the first toolpath was just to kind of like peace of mind, just to make sure that it barely touched, right? The next toolpath should be 250 deep around the outside. And the reason I picked up the outside center of the block was so we can measure the width, and it should be 3 by 3. The next one, the pocket, that one, the first roughing toolpath should have left 20 thousandths on the side and the bottom. And the last pocket toolpath should have gone a ½ inch deep, and it should also have a symmetrical wall thickness all the way around. That can kind of like give you, you know, if those things are in order, you picked up right. If some of those things are not in order, something is wrong. And it might be the way you picked up the part out there, how your work offset is set. So also, of course, make sure that you check on your machining manual. Now, let's go and take a look at the post, because this is maybe where some of you guys would like to dig in and get a little bit deeper into this. So when you have all your code, close we have all this code here. By the way, see how my tool number is showing 223. Normally you maybe want to adjust that. I'm just going to show you how to do that. If you go up here to your tool library, you will see in here, if you click on the whatever the part name you're working on, in here is the tool. If I right click in here, I can renumber my tools. Let me just show you again how I got in here. So if you ever want to adjust the tool call out, this is just because I used to program a machine that had a lot of tools. That's why it has such a high tool number. To change the tool number, go up here to tool library button. Make sure you click on the part that you're working on. right click in here and you can say renumber tools. And in here you can then choose what the first tool number is going to be, what the increments can be, and you can probably read yourself for the rest. I'm just going to hit OK, and you will see this is now going to change to tool number 1. There you go. Exit out of that, and this is now tool number 1. All right, let me get a glass of water here. I hope this is helpful, guys, for you guys who's kind of like testing out your first post. All right, let's go ahead and post this. So I'm going to select my setup here, so I make sure that I grab all the tools in here. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go up here and click Post Process. Now, if you've ever been in here, you've probably seen in the drop-down that there's a lot of posts right inside of Fusion here. And there is. That's true. But actually, if you want to get the latest and greatest post, don't go in here. Go out and click on this one, search for Post in Online Post Library. So I'm going to click on that. And of course, this window opens up on my different window. Here we go. And this is supported by Autodesk. There's this post library out here. And there's so many cool posts. The development team have done a great job in here. But the easiest thing in here is probably actually just searching for your post. And remember that your post is not necessarily what machine you have. It's more about what controller you have on your machine. Okay, so you might have like a Kitamura or another type of machine that uses a FNOC control. So I'm going to go in here and search FNOC here. And you will see that I get all the different FNOC type posts that there is in here. There's a bunch. One of the things that is nice about this is that if you click on the recent changes, you will actually see when the last time the post team updated these. That's awesome. And you can see that this was actually done in May. In May 30th, they updated how it handled. So this is continually being worked on. So find the post that fits whatever you're trying to do out here, and then you can just click and you can download it. And it's going to be downloaded locally to your machine. And when you've done that, then let's open it up. Let's go into my downloads folder here. And what I like to do is I like to rename it. So I'm going to right click and I'm just going to rename it. And you could rename it for whatever machine you're trying to do here, or whatever you kind of like feel like. So I'm going to just rename it LiveStream. So now that is renamed. Now go back into Fusion. And if you go in here, up here, there's something called Setup. Actually, you know what? Go back into your download and copy it. So right click on it. We renamed it. Copy. Okay. Then go back into Fusion. Up here, there's something called Setup. You can click here, and it will actually let you go and open up where all the posts that you saw in the drop-down are. So click Open Folder, and now I can paste that LiveStream one in here. So FNOC LiveStream is now in here. Let me exit out of this, and I think I gotta cancel out of the post window here too, and just do it one more time. Click Setup, click Post Process, and now when we hit the drop down, you will see that my FNOC LiveStream post that we just downloaded here. It's a great thing about LiveStream, right? That everything is right on. So we're gonna hit LiveStream, and now I'm gonna go and post out the code that we just generated inside of this thing. So I'm gonna hit Post, and I'm gonna overwrite whatever I have, and of course it opens up in the outside window here. So here is the posted code. Now here I want to highlight a couple of things for you that I think is extremely important. First of all, and this depends on what post you're selecting, but this is your kind of like safety net for what's happening out of the machine, because this is what we're going to feed to the machine. First of all, this will show you the maximum depth of the cutter here. So that will show you that right here on the top. And you will also see here we get our feeds and speeds. Here is the G54, so that was the work offset we wanted to use. But here's a couple of things for you to kind of like just be aware of. So it's going to position 200,000 above the part. It's going to position down right 50,000 above the part, and then you will see here, this is the phasing operation, by the way. Here you will see that Z0, right? That was when I talked about it was just gonna deck right off the machine here, or right off the top of the part here. So that's the 100,000 for that. So that should, and like I said, this toolpath is just to make sure that you feel comfortable, that it's not gonna crash into the part. The next one is the 2D contour is gonna go outside. And if you look in that one, you will see that one's gonna go that 250 down. And this is, I think, really, first time you're doing a new post, it's important to check this, not just throw some part on there. I know you wanna get things done and you are eager to get things done, but making a testing part like this, I think is just crucial to make sure you don't crash your machine, to make sure you can sleep at night and all that stuff. The next one is the adaptive. Now the adaptive is a little bit longer, and here you will see that helix, and you will see that it's gonna end right down here, 0.48, right? So that's that 20 thousandths that it was gonna leave on the bottom for the pocketing toolpath. And then if we scroll down to the pocketing toolpath, down here somewhere, there's the pocketing toolpath. Now here we will see that that one is gonna, this is the plunge that comes down, and then down here you will see it comes down to that, the bottom of the cutter. So this is kind of like how you can read through all these different things. But I would do all these steps and go in and verify the code in here before I would go ahead and send my part to the machine. So guys, I really hope that this, I'm looking at the microphone. So guys, look at you. So guys, I really hope that this was helpful today. So even though that we are in my kitchen area here today, and we only talked CAM, I hope that this was valuable. I know that there are a bunch of people who have been asking about CAM, and I know some people want to see some more advanced stuff, and I understand that. I just felt like that this was important because I got a few emails from people who, and everybody kind of like has to go through this at some point, right? Even if you are kind of like, seasoned, you got to go through adding a new post to your part. And I hope that you definitely go out and check out the post library that there is out there from Autodesk that has all these different posts in it. They keep on being updated. And like I said, I would definitely create like a little, I call it like a dummy block to do your first test on. That is a way to just make sure that things don't, go crazy. So I hope that this was helpful. I am gonna do what I normally do. I'm gonna jump into the live chat. We have like 48 people. Really appreciate all you guys for jumping in and doing this. You guys are watching the recording. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch these. And don't forget, down in the description area is my email address. If you have any topics you would like to see, do that. So I'm gonna stop the streaming, but I'm definitely going to be in the live stream for in the chat for a little bit, and just say hi to all the great people who are in there. Until the next time, have an awesome day.